Hey, Dave here from BOgear, and this is the Source 3 litre military specification water bladder. Now, I'm a big fan of hydration bladders. I've been using them for many years, basically because it allows access to water on the go, so you're not having to rely on drink bottles, you're not having to try and grab them from the side of your bag, from your bike, from wherever. You don't have to deal with the big bulky drink bottles when they're empty. Instead, bladders allow the water to be accessible on the go whenever you want, easy, and when you're doing something with your hands you can still drink water, and the more you drink the more it compresses down. So as I've said, I've been using water bladders for a long time. I've tried a lot of different brands, and for the last 5 years I've been religiously using Source, the brand, and I absolutely love it. It's got a lot of features that stand out from everything else, and it happens to be my favourite water bladder, and from now we now have it and it's available online. So what sets this one apart personally for me is the fact that it doesn't actually taste plasticky. It doesn't have a metallic taste, it doesn't have that plastic taste, it doesn't impart a flavour, if you will, on the water. Now the reason for that is because the bladder's aligned with what Source calls Glasslike technology. Now that means that, number one, it doesn't have any flavour imparted, and it tastes as pure and fresh as it does when you first put the water in. But in addition to that, it also means that mould and gunk doesn't actually grow inside the water bladder. Now I've tested that because I didn't believe it. I thought that was a bit false. So I have actually had a water bladder full of water for 8 months straight. I haven't actually emptied it out. I've had it full of water, I've been drinking from it, I've been refilling it. So it's always had water in it. I've never cleaned it out, never dried it out. And it would have continued longer than 8 months, except my wife found out and she made me empty the bladder and clean it out. But I can officially say that 8 months is my limit so far. I've found that 8 months it can definitely hold water and not grow any mould. So that glass-like technology on the inside definitely works, and definitely works well. Now, another key feature that I like about this bladder is the slide top opening. Now this is the slide top opening here, which basically has got a slide off and a flap over, which means that you can easily fill up the water. Now, I was a bit dubious at first because it's a big opening. I was worried that water would spill out, it would leak, be easy to break, but that's actually not the case. And I've put it through the ringer. I've put it in packs. I've sat on it. I've slept on it. I've jumped on it. I've pushed it off cliffs, not cliffs, a couple of meters, and it hasn't burst. It's done quite well. But the major reason why I like this large opening is because it's easy to fill with water. Now, it may not sound like a lot, but when you're going for a hike and all you've got to fill your water bladder with is a waterfall, having this large opening, which sort of acts like a funnel, makes a big key difference, because the water comes down, it grabs in the opening and it falls through. Cannot do that with other water bladders. It'll take you forever to try and fill it up with a standard screw top opening. Now, this particular bladder model also has the screw top opening on the side as well. So you've got the fold top and you've also got the screw top there. Now that screw top screws off, allows you the traditional style opening, but it also means that it can apparently clip on and mate with the water pump filter system, which means if you're pumping directly from creeks and you want to filter the water, you can screw your filter directly on and there's no leaks and it'll fit perfectly. So that's the top of the actual water bladder itself. Now onto the hose. So the hose and the actual mouthpiece feature quick release buckles, which means that you can unclip the hose and you can unclip the mouthpiece. What that is useful for is when you run out of water, rather than having to reweave your hose and your mouthpiece through your bag, you can actually just simply unclip the hose and then put a new bladder on. In addition to that, it also means that if you run out of water and your mate happens to have the Source hydration bladder as well, it means you can unclip your mouthpiece and clip your mouthpiece onto his hose and essentially stop trading cooties, because that's bad. Now the cord itself, so the actual hose itself, is covered. Now I originally thought that was an insulated tube, but it's not. in tests, it does still heat up when in use. Now the covering basically protects it from sunlight. So the tube itself doesn't actually have glass-like technology on the inside, which means that it can grow mold in there, but by covering it, it reduces the likelihood of that mold growing in the first place. Now back to the bladder, I forgot to mention, but that slide top also makes it fantastic for cleaning out. With a standard screw top opening, you can't get in there to dry it out, whereas that fold top, you literally can shove your hand the whole way in, your whole fist, your big meat paw, get the cloth in there and dry it out, which basically stops mold growing as well. So I'm Dave from BOgear, and seriously, this is the best water bladder that I've come across, and available online. Cheers.